world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now. BrahMos. Stealthy, lethal, precise. It flies at 3 times the speed of sound and cuts through a warship like a hot knife through butter. China's navy has threatened its neighbors, and they are turning to the BrahMos for protection. The Warship Killer. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
They picked my husband. He was tortured there for 2 years. He was enforced disappeared. We had no idea where he is. Within 15 minutes, we got the information that the whole area is surrounded by Pakistan Army. I came out from that in disguise, and after 5 to 6 hours, I was in Kandahar. I don't have any message for Pakistan. There is no politician in Pakistan. They are puppets of Pakistan Army.
Streaming now. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
He thought he could outlast us. And 1 year later, the evidence is right here in this room.
Who will blink first?
So far from preventing the expansion of NATO, Russian actions have actually resulted in the expansion of NATO.
It's a mess for Russia and it's a mess for the Western world, for NATO and the United States.
Putin is a dictator, and if he loses, that means the end of his regime, and probably of him personally. So he has to keep going.
Year 2. No end in sight. Streaming now.
इंजीनियरिंग कर रहे हैं जो कि सभी लोग कर रहे हैं.
Coaching is now starting from grade 3, 4, 5, 6.
कोटा जाने वाली बीच राह में आधे टेस्ट देके हैं सिलेक्शन की चाह में.
ऑल इंडिया का बच्चा कोटा जाता है.
This rat race is for rats, not for humans. So why should we even be a part of it?
The Rat Race. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
Delhi has the fastest growing metro network among G20 nations. From 6 stations in 2002, it today has 286 stations. Reliability, cleanliness and affordability have set the template for other Indian metros. The architect of this modern-day world-class marvel is E. Sridharan. Watch the extraordinary life of Metro Man E. Sridharan streaming now on News9 Plus. Download now.
Hello and a very warm welcome. Thanks for tuning in to News9 Live. I'm Kabir Naqvi and we're bringing you this special broadcast from our studio here in the national capital. And we're styled by none other than Paul Moll, ladies and gentlemen. Joined by Sandeep Unithan here in the studio, our editor for News9 Plus. And what we're going to be touching and focusing over the next couple of minutes is this new Chinese PLA base camp that has come about just approximately 50 kilometers away from Himachal Pradesh, directly opposite Uttarakhand. We're going to be carrying out this in-depth discussion on the evolving situation along the line of actual control, the LAC, between China and India. Recent reports indicate that China has continued to enhance its military infrastructure and connectivity, this in the central sector, positioning itself approximately 50 kilometers away from Himachal Pradesh, directly opposite Uttarakhand. Now, in the backdrop of the ongoing standoff between Chinese and Indian forces, satellite images, and we've got plenty of them for you to see today as well. These satellite images have revealed significant developments. These images suggest that the Chinese People's Liberation Army is actively engaged in constructing military infrastructure to improve air connectivity and establish a new link road along the LAC in the central sector, directly opposite Uttarakhand. Sources within the defense and security establishment have confirmed that China is in fact concentrating its efforts on enhancing air connectivity in the central sector. This in addition to the air infrastructure, the Chinese side has initiated the construction of a new link road and a helipad at locations such as the Poling Jindu and the Sarang, which is directly opposite India's Niti Pass and the Tunjun Pass. Furthermore, new Chinese PLA camps have been identified in proximity to India's Niti Pass and the Tunjun Pass. Our program today is going to feature satellite images that illustrate the rapid progress of a project that commenced in the central sector just this past May. And that's not all. We'll also talk about how the global warming and the climate is also impacting our military prowess and this infrastructure war across both ends of the LAC. First and foremost, Sandeep, we've got these images, and just so that we can lay bare the semantics in front of the viewers, how about you take them through of exactly what is happening where. What began in March this year has suddenly turned into a full-blown operational base camp by the month of September. How about you take the viewers through that?
That's right. So, Kabir, I'm just going to show you this place, which is about 50 kilometers from the line of actual control in the central sector. Now, the central sector is about 500 kilometers of the LAC. It has the two states of Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. And what we've seen, very interestingly, is a new PLA camp that's just come up here along the Satluj River, which flows through Tibet and then enters India. That is where this new PLA camp has come up. And it's very interesting because this sector is largely peaceful. There are no disputes here. There have been a few cases in the last 2 years where the PLA has kind of intruded and they've been repelled by our patrols. But by and large, if you look at it, the central sector is a peaceful sector. There's not many disputes. The PLA claims just one place there, but as opposed to Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh. So we have been tracking the development of this new PLA base camp over the last couple of months. So I want to take you through the first thing. Now, in March of this year, we have the Sentinel images. If you can just show us that this is the gorge, the river gorge. There's absolutely no activity there. You can see it, it's clean, right? This image is from March 2023. Now, can we have the next image?
All right, and the next month we see developments take place.
Now,
this is May.
May, you see the first signs of some kind of construction starting to take place, right? You can see these man-made structures coming up there.
Seems like barracks from the satellite images.
It's like some kind of military habitation. We're not clear because bear in mind that these are Sentinel images. These are commercial satellites. Obviously, the military, whoever on our side is looking at it, has a better idea of exactly what kind of construction there is. But these are definitely man-made structures, and judging by their positioning, they appear to be some kind of a military camp. So that's when things get interesting. If you can go to the next image, right? There's a partial occupation, and now here again you can see these dugouts that are being ready for being occupied. Now, dugouts are some kind of structures which are semi-buried in the ground, which are sheltered, where a lot of supplies are kept, usually for troops or for stocking up for winter. So that again we see that's taken place. Now this is in June, right?
Right.
And if you go to the next image, which is in July, those structures are further developed. Now you can see vehicles coming in there. The camp has kind of expanded, right? So this is exactly how the PLA
You also have
works.
that little small elliptical to the left side.
Yes.
What does that indicate?
That's possibly some kind of a guard structure, a security structure for this camp. We still don't have exact details of that, but all of this has come up very rapidly, Kabir, in just a matter of months. And that tells you the speed with which the PLA...
In May, there was absolutely nothing.
There's nothing in May, and then in July, you start seeing all these structures
It says here the occupation is underway. It's almost complete.
Yes. And bear in mind that July is the time when Himachal has seen record floods. There's huge, destruction of infrastructure on our side of the border. And this is the time when the PLA suddenly starts building up in strength across the LAC, just 50 kilometers away. And now if you see the next image, which is the 28th of September, the occupation is nearly complete.
Right,
and
a clearer photograph from the satellite as well, Sandeep.
That's correct. So what you see is a full-fledged base that's just come up. And experts that we have spoken to say that this could be a combined arms brigade. And with an extension there, that we're again not very clear what that side is, but this for sure is a proper base with some kind of semi-permanent structures, and these structures could house almost a brigade worth of troops there for the winter. And this is really important because as we speak right now, both sides in Ladakh are preparing for the winter, which in a couple of days now is going to get chilly in Ladakh. While we have our eyes focused on Ladakh, here you have the PLA with a brand new base across the central sector where you least expect them to be. But very fortunately, we are aware of these developments. And like I said, Kabir, if we can get satellite imagery from commercial satellites, you can bet that our military knows about this base and they're fully prepared for this. But the thing is that the moot point here is that the PLA has chosen to activate a sector of the LAC, the central sector that was largely peaceful, that didn't see too many disputes. But this again tells you that they are trying to kind of expand their zone of conflict. And that is basically how the PLA operates. So they're kind of planning to activate the entire line of actual control. So that if you thought that the central sector was one area where you could rest in peace and there wouldn't be any problems there, think again. And this is exactly what's happening.
It certainly seems like it is the right time we must address some critical questions as well. How vulnerable is the central sector? And in what ways is it vulnerable? What lessons have we learned from the experiences in the eastern sector? And how have we fortified our border defenses? We have the Vibrant Villages program as well. But all right, so viewers, we've shown you exactly what the satellite images, these commercial satellites and Sentinel images tell us and show us. In terms of the area, Sandeep, and in terms of the build-up speed, because that is something of grave significance, something that was quite rightly non-existent in May. It's a full-blown operational base by the month of September. Can you talk us through that as well?
Yeah, well, see that.
How are they able to build so fastly and swiftly?
The Chinese are masters of infrastructure building, and we've seen this not just in China but across the world. Wherever they, I was just speaking to some experts about the kind of bridges, the kind of infrastructure that they've built up in the Maldives. They've literally built a 2-kilometer bridge on connecting one island to the other, and they've used kind of technology that's never been used before, like driving piles 50 meters into the seabed through corals and stuff that's never been done before. So this, if you ask me, what we were just looking at is a piece of cake for them. But so this just tells you that with China, there is no rest. When they're on the border, you have to be on your guard 24/7, 365. Like I said, if you thought the central sector was one area where the Chinese are not going to be very active, they're now there. They have almost a brigade.
And these launch pads of the Chinese PLA, they are closer, really close to our key and strategic tunnels, some of which we're building. The Border Roads Organization is working tirelessly on the border fronts. But like the Mansarovar area, you've got all those crucial key roads and passes that are very near to these Chinese launch pads.
Absolutely. And this, there are some experts who have been telling us that this is possibly the PLA kind of militarizing the area around the Mansarovar Lake. The Mansarovar Lake has got enormous significance to Indians. There are a lot of annual pilgrimages that go out there, of Indians who want to visit the Kailash Mansarovar, extremely significant, deeply spiritually symbolic. And there is a possibility that the Chinese feel that they're planning for the future, that if there is a build-up of Indian forces, they could come and try and, take Mansarovar to launch an attack. So this is possibly planning ahead. So the Chinese are very good at planning ahead. And by moving into a sector, like I said, that where we have not had any major PLA activity, very few skirmishes, right? This is one of those so-called settled regions of the LAC. It's only most of the disputes are in the western sector and in the eastern sector. That's in Arunachal Pradesh and across Ladakh.
Why do you think the central sector, the one that we were just showcasing, why is that vulnerable? I mean, of course, the first thing that comes to my mind is that you've got all these hill stations in Himachal and Uttarakhand. These are synonymous with summer vacations. So a lot of commercial activity and a lot of population as well. But what else?
So, I mean, I'm just thinking aloud that one possible reason could be the fact that the floods in Himachal have affected our infrastructure. And this could well be the PLA taking advantage of that and building up at the same time that we are kind of repairing our roads and bridges on our side of the LAC. This allows them to bring troops much faster to the LAC to launch patrols. And if you look back, these bases, the base that they have built is very close to the G219, which is the main highway. It's an arterial highway connecting Tibet and Xinjiang. So that allows them to move troops at incredible speeds wherever they would wish to. So they can actually, they have cross-sector mobility. They can move troops from Ladakh straight away across into the central sector. That is something that we have not been able to do, given the fact that we are at a disadvantage because of geographical reasons. We are on the foothills of the Himalayas, and what happens is that our troops kind of get locked into certain sectors, and it's not that easy for our troops, say located in Ladakh, to go speedily towards the central sector. Whereas for the Chinese, because they're sitting on the plateau, it's much easier because they've built all these road infrastructure with those main highways and the feeder lines that are going out into these places. And now they can just choose to build camps wherever they want to, which is exactly what we are seeing right now in that area, which is 50 kilometers from the LAC. So this is something to watch out for, Kabir. And if I were in the army commander on our side, I would be very carefully looking at this spot, which I'm sure they are. And they're fully aware of this, because the kind of sensory grids that we have now built, thanks to the Chinese again, in the last 3 years, there's literally nothing that moves on their side of the border without us knowing about it. So I'm sure that they know about this, and for good reason they've chosen not to speak about it very openly, but I'm sure they're well aware of it, and they're taking all necessary precautions.
You know, our surveillance on one side, and I was just looking at a News9 Plus documentary called Manning the Heights, where we're talking about an all-woman task force at 1,500 feet. Is the highest point where the BRO has placed an all-women's unit task force.
Kabir, that story that you mentioned, it's put together by the News9 Plus team. They traveled there to something like super high altitude. A producer, reporter, Nivriti Mohan, Vinayak Sharma, and Naresh Kumar, they went there. They spent a week there with the BRO at super high altitude, and they've covered some incredible stories which you must watch. It's called Manning the Heights, and this BRO all-woman contingent that's deployed there. And in fact, that's one of the biggest achievements of our infrastructure build-up in the last 3 years. Despite this border skirmish with China, we are on, eyeballing them at, say, various parts of the LAC, from the western sector to the eastern sector. The one area that we have not kind of gone slow on is the infrastructure build-up. There have been an explosive growth in the kind of bridges, roads, highways, airfields that are being built, just so that we build up parity with the Chinese. So we may have been slack, Kabir, in the last couple of decades. We may have gone easy and slow. While the Chinese were building up on the Tibetan plateau, they were building in full, in broad daylight. We kind of slept in the early days. We were not quite sure what happened. But now that we are aware of their designs, we're building up in full strength, and the BRO.
And those visuals are right there for everybody to see. What I'm essentially, why I spoke about Manning the Heights and the all-women task force is that the BRO has been toiling hard.
Yes.
We've been making the right kind of infrastructure as well. But that pertinent point that you raised, how today in modern warfare, the climatic impact and global warming is something that one has to take into account. We've got visuals from across, major tourist destinations from Himachal Pradesh. Take a look at this. This is just this year. The entire wall, the entire national highway that's pretty much caved in. All of this is also a dampening effect on how we're swiftly trying to build infrastructure on the border fronts as well. Climate change as part of modern warfare.
Absolutely. And Kabir, this is really worrying because on the one hand, this just tells you the kind of treacherous terrain that the military is building infrastructure in. And on the other hand, you have someone on the other side, on the Tibetan plateau, who is militarizing infrastructure, and I'm not talking only of airfields and highways, but also building these massive dams, which could be used in some kind of ecological warfare against India, being on the lower heights of the Himalayas. So this is something that we really need to watch out for, Kabir. And this is something that we'll be tracking very closely.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can count on News9 to bring you all the latest developments and details pertaining to this new base camp that has come about just 50 kilometers approximately from Himachal Pradesh, directly opposite Uttarakhand. Like Sandeep put it, our commanders in the central sector are closely going to be monitoring this. So of course, no need to panic at this particular juncture, but it's important that we tell the viewers what the Sentinel satellite images are picking up. This is PLA's activity this summer in 2023. We'll have to wait and find out exactly what India's response is going to be ahead of this cold winter season. That's all the time we have for you. Sandeep, many thanks for joining with us and helping the viewers out with the satellite images. This is Kabir Naqvi signing off. Keep watching News9 Live, ladies and gentlemen. Lots more coming right on the other side.
Almost did not want to find out that Rajiv Gandhi was corrupt. Is it possible for a Prime Minister of a country to tell so many lies? You cannot imagine the pressure on me by the VP Singh government to write this story, to blame Amitabh Bachchan. Mr. Modi opened the boxes. Hello. My name is Chitra Subramaniam. I am a journalist by profession. My investigations into Bofors brought down the Rajiv Gandhi government.
This and more streaming now on the world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now. BrahMos, stealthy, lethal, precise. It flies at 3 times the speed of sound and cuts through a warship like a hot knife through butter. China's navy has threatened its neighbors, and they are turning to the BrahMos for protection. The warship killer. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
Do you know how many students left India last year? Take a wild guess. More than 7 lakh students. That's more than the population of a small state like Sikkim. These students spent more than 40,000 crore rupees on their education. That's more than 65 times the 600 crore budget of India's Chandrayaan 3 mission. So what's driving students away from India?
My name is Hia. I just gave my 12th board examinations in 2022.
Hi, I'm Tanya. I'm an economist by profession.
Just finished my first year of bachelor's in America.
My name is Sandhya Agarwal. I am living in Delhi for the past 1 year because of my post-graduation, which I am pursuing from Jamia Millia Islamia.
For the past year and a half, I've been in the US working with research organizations.
and I study psychology with neuroscience. I'm doing a double major.
And I'm now going to start a PhD in economics in the US.
It was my final semester when the COVID happened. So I had planned since 2018 that I will go immediately either US or UK.
Psychology is definitely offered in India, but when I was researching for programs or degrees or colleges, I realized there are a lot more unnecessary battles in becoming a psychologist in India, such as something I feel which is as bare minimum as internships or experience in this field are required to be paid.
I always knew I wanted to do research, and as much as I know about the Indian research ecosystem, specifically with social sciences, it seemed it was better to be abroad for that, for multiple reasons. One is the teaching or the curriculum is more focused at teaching here, but they weren't evaluated on their research qualifications as such. Whereas in the US or the UK, where I pursued my master's, the incentives are completely different, where they do not focus on teaching, but focus more on what is the research output of the professor.
As compared to India, there's more practical approach there. You are allowed to do things beyond your course.